Did you know I don't think that Kentucky Fried Chicken and Taco Bell serve breakfast? Well, in the JR universe, there's a big franchise called Kentucky Bell that serves Mexican food and chicken and breakfast. So, good point, JR. This is the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman podcast that deals with the early life of my alter ego, J.R. Hendrick. This episode is in a narrated format, commentary by myself and J.R. Relax and enjoy the adventure. Take care. God bless. Okay, so this episode is called The Order of the Dove. And the only noteworthy news that I think we should mention is the 20th of January, 1996. The Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl. So now we will continue with the episode trailer, The Order of the Dove. I want JR back. Something I mean to tell you, Madison. I love you. I promise you this, Brent. I'm going to try to build you up. You got to help me with my paper. I'm a swing gentleman. I'm a member of the Order of the Dove. I promise. Okay, so now we will continue. We're doing this kind of in a different way because of some problems with setup. So here we go. Now, Gerald can begin the narrative. Between the 25th and 27th of January, I was feeling terrible and lonely. On the evening of the 28th of January, Kevin McDonald took me to a Super Bowl party to the apartment of Craig Carter. We had a good time and even danced a jig when the Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl. And might I say, Kevin McDonald danced a jig when the MVP was announced. Earlier that weekend, Stoney had advised me to go see Reverend Steve Moore Monday morning. Okay, so it's 1:30 a.m. Petro Memorial Hospital. In your multiverse, where is that, Jared? Far East Odessa. Okay. Madison gives birth after a difficult 7 hours of labor to James Kyle Dustin. It's not named after me or Daddy. He's actually named after James Moorhead, who died in Bosnia. At least that's what Mama said. I believe it. Picking up the phone, Kyle calls the ranch and Elizabeth Marie answers to tell them the news that James Kyle was born. "3 a.m. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Cousin Thomas is the new foreman of Swingfield Ranch. And he's out there milking the cows with the rest of the hands. He did not get his hands dirty. 4:30 a.m. At the ranch, Betsy wakes up and has a cup of coffee. Yesterday had been an eventful day for her. Early Sunday morning, she left Jim, wanting to fly to Dallas and And during her layover, she went to an interfaith chapel at the airport to pray and read her Bible. Kyle picked her up at the airport and took her to the new townhouse for them to watch the Super Bowl together. However, at 6 p.m., Madison went into labor, and they watched the Super Bowl together at the hospital. Betsy returned home after the Super Bowl was over because she was tired. Okay, so it's 9 a.m. It's Kristen's dorm at Knapp Hall, and she's visited by her father. And he's like kind of angry, like, "Why don't you let me in your world?" And Kristen's like, "Dad, everything was going great. I thought I had found a man. I've never mentioned him before. J.R. Hendrick," Kristen said. "Well, the kid's a good stock. I've done some business with his father. He dealt with me fair and square." Of course, I think Daddy wished that Kristen and I had just eloped. No doubt. "He told me he's scared of being in a rebound relationship. And I wanted a man so much." I don't think she just wanted any man at this point. She wanted JR. She wanted JR back. And her father says, "Give him space." He's like, "I mean, he gave you that cross necklace. If it's worth it, he'll come back to you." Okay, so now we're in the Holy Spirit Club. And JR is sitting, and he walks into the office of Reverend Steve Moore. And the Reverend's like, "Sit down, JR, and tell me what's wrong." And JR's like, "Days ago, I visited and hung out with a lady friend of mine." A lady friend of mine. A lady friend of mine, JR? I kind of had feelings for her. It's hard for me to reach that far back. But somehow I knew. And I wanted her so bad. And Jerry was like, "Well, I wanted her so bad." But 2 months ago, I was dumped by a girl I cherished. And I'm frightened about being in a rebound. And you know, he's shaking and crying. He too wants Kristen so bad. But, you know, it's a problem. "Jerry, you were really still missing Karen Crowder?" No, Jimmy, I wasn't. I knew it was over. But people like Brad were warning me about a rebound relationship. Brad was an idiot, but I won't give him no bells until he pops up and says something stupid. And the Reverend's like, "And you're afraid of moving on?" And Gerald's like real soft. He's like, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Well, I happen to know you're a member of the Order of the Dove. Their motto is perfect love casteth out fear. I also know you're studying advocacy. They may have a cause to keep you busy. I'll call Brent, and we'll grab a snack and talk about this." "Thank you, Reverend," Gerald said. Okay, so then Gerald's phone rings. It's Kristen. She wants to talk, but he's got to get headed off for class, so He's not interested. So around that same time, here's what's going on. Christine, she finds a campus newspaper at Midway Prep that features a top story of John Henry and Jennifer Bowers. Did any of them go to Midway Prep? Legend has it that John Henry did. Maybe he had some relatives in Midland, I don't know. I don't care. Okay, so it's 9:30 a.m. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Betsy is riding her horse, and Thomas approaches her. You might as well put in the Gunsmoke theme for this one. Could if you didn't have the copyright thing, if you know what I mean. And so Thomas says, and Betsy, do you need anything when I go into town? And Betsy's like, please drop by the hospital and see that baby. I think James Kyle's birth turned Kyle around. Turned Kyle around. There she is again. Enabling Kyle. Jimmy, give her the bell. JR, she's your mother. Jimmy, give her the bell. Alright, JR, I didn't want to do it in this point in the episode. But okay, I think I will. Alright. And Thomas is like, well, I hope he and Madison can have a better marriage now. Because I asked Rachel to marry me, and she said yes. And that's been a long time coming. I think you've been wanting to ask her since Grandma died. Okay, so it's 1:45 p.m. From his study carrel at the Smith Hall Library, J.R. calls his sister. Christine, have you heard anything in chapel about Karen's mother working at an abortion clinic? You weren't over Karen. No, I was. I just wanted to stop abortion. Don't blame me there, JR. And Christine's like, I knew you were in love with Karen. But there's plenty of other fish in the sea, JR. It's time to move on. And Christine's like, maybe it's not about Karen, it's about information. And Christine's like, suck it up, JR. And she's like, the bell's about to ring. I have to go into biology class. So, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? I would say that it is. Because biology class was usually, I think, one of her last classes of the day that year, Midway Prep. And Christine saying, suck it up, that sounds a lot like Daddy. We got people like that in our lives, don't we, JR? Indeed we do. 3 p.m. In her dorm room, Kristen takes off the cross necklace after looking at it intently and throws it on the desk. She sits down on the bed and starts to cry. You know, JR, you told me that when you guys parted ways last, she was clutching that necklace and crying. She was. And I had to go. I had to go. So she picks up the phone and guess who she calls? Brent. And she says, hello, Brent? Yes, we better talk, Kristen said. Yes, my place is 5. Okay, so it's 5 p.m. And Cousin Joe just walks out of the Texas Tech Law School, and he picks up the phone and calls Kristen. He says, about the time we have a little talk, little chat about my cousin JR. And she's like, when and where? And Joe's like, tomorrow morning, Kentucky Bell, bacon and eggs, and biscuits. I'll pick you up at 6. Whew. Now it's 7 p.m. Okay. Kristen, she's very high strung. She had just got out of dinner. She was pacing around for about an hour and a half when Brent walks in. And he says, I'm sorry I'm late. And she's like, it's okay. Please sit down. And then there's a long pause, and she says, I need to talk. I need to skin with you to get JR back. And Brent's like, knowingly his father is going to send Mike Fields to dissuade you. And she says, I heard around campus he was hot after Karen Crowder. She never loved him. Someone can tell Jim Hendrick I can give JR what he needs. Yeah, she's just like yammering on and on and on and on because she just had anxiety going. She's yammering on and on and on and on. Sounds like you throughout the story. And we're not going to give too much. We're not going to give any spoiler alerts, but you knew her pretty well. I sure did. Damn straight, I sure did. Okay, so now it's 6:30 p.m. No, 6:30 a.m. at Kentucky Bell. Joe and Kristen sit down to talk. Now, Joe is wearing his junior Texas Tech jacket. From like, yeah, this is something I need to fill people in. This is some pre-episode stuff that people don't know. In the fall of 1992, I used to go over to Cousin Joe's apartment at Texas Tech. And he'd wear his Texas Tech jacket and boast about how well the team won the game that year. It was back in October. Mama came over for the weekend. So Kristen's like I said, I don't know you. So while our meet, and Joe's like, Christine Gerald's sister texted me yesterday. Said that I need to talk to someone close to him. And she's like, well, naturally, you just chose me? And he says, I heard about his exploits down in Austin. He says he thought he met the love of his life there. And she's like, what makes you think it's me? She's backpedaling. And she's backpedaling. She's backpedaling, JR. Should we give it a bell? No. Alright. In this case, I won't. And he says, all right. He went to confess to a reverend yesterday. The matron of the Holy Spirit Club told me, do you want me to do anything? And she's like, let me think about that for a minute. And you could sense the sadness in her voice. And she says, I think I'll find out myself. Okay, so it's 10 a.m. We're meanwhile back at the ranch, Rachel is cleaning the attic when she discovers a tape, a cassette tape that has the name Dr. Jonas Salk. Kara, I'm not going to give too much history. It was recorded on reel to reel, and then Granddad had one of his friends remastered into cassette and cleaned up all the gunk and stuff. Okay? She begins digging and finds a red folder that says Jonas Salk. She then goes downstairs and tells Thomas, who is at the den, that she's driving in to a courthouse in Weatherford. It was getting obvious to me that Madison and Rachel were close, and that Rachel called Madison, now back from home, to tell her what she was going to do. Okay, so it's 2 p.m. 1 p.m. rather. Kristen arrives to a room at Knapp Hall to find JR there. And she's like, I'm flabbergasted that you're here. And JR's like, Pulsey was on her way out, and she said that you were coming in. And she's like, Pulsey, the gossiper, come on in. And he says, I came here to apologize. Things were going so well between us. I guess I got afraid. And she's like, you're afraid of being close with me? And Gerald's like, yeah. And Kristen's like, because Karen Crowder threw you out like last year's garbage. And Gerald's like, yeah. And she's like, well, I found out that yesterday you went and confessed to a reverend. And Gerald, you told me about this. Okay, so what gives? And Gerald's like, Joe said something to you? And she's like, you ought to know. Why couldn't you have told me? We would have. And of course, Derek cuts her off. He says, you know I really care for you. But I don't want a quick rebound. I'll come and see you soon. Okay, Gerald leaves and Kristen picks up the phone. And she says, Brent, come here at 6 tonight. It's time to put wings to our conspiracy. Okay, 2 p.m. Okay, get this. Kyle has his 1-ton parked next to Claude's at a rig in Colorado City. Jared, of course, is meeting with Brent to discuss the order of the dove business. So Kyle's there, and Madison calls, and she says, well, Kyle, I'm taking the kids to go to Weatherford. I want to help Rachel with a project. And he says, that's fine, baby. We'll talk about it when you get back home. And she says, I should be back by tomorrow afternoon. And Kyle's like, Madison, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. I haven't told you for 9 months. I love you. And it's kind of like, let's pause here. normally Kyle would have said, fine, stay gone. Fine, stay gone. So, I don't know. At this point, I don't know if Madison should trust Kyle. Now, that being said, I didn't like Madison that much, and the part of me still don't. Okay, so let's go on from that, Jared. Let's go on from that. Okay, so it's 3 p.m. Kyle goes to the bar, and he's talking to Christina, and he's like, he's breaking up. He's like, look, there's something I need to say. I'm sorry, but I led you on. And she's like, Christina's like, so? And Kyle's like, look, I was so down when my grandmother died. I ran to you because it was cold at home. But now, I have another baby boy. I can't stay with you. And Kristen's like, and Christine's like, I'm not our fan, for beating me up. But okay then, Kyle. Go run home to your wife. Jared, can you give me some backstory there? Sure I can. Well, people don't know, and of course this is pretty episodic. Kyle was, shall we say, 17 when he began, running around with Christine. Maybe he was a sleeper with her. I don't know. I don't care. I do know that spring break in Gainesville, me, Kyle, and Brad nearly came to fisticuffs. Mike Fields broke it up, and he put me upstairs with Grandma. Told Kyle to shape up or he was going to tell Daddy, who was no doubt campaigning for Clinton at the time. Yeah. Okay, so now we go to the Holy Spirit Club. It's 5 p.m. JR has dinner at the Holy Spirit Club. And it's fried chicken dinner night. JR sits with Connie and C.B. Coleman. And CB says, well, Brent said he had to meet with Kristen Haig, a date with Jesse, and then meet you at the library. And Jared's like, damn, I can't believe he's conspiring again. And Connie's like, give me time, I'll talk to him. And Stevie's like, be careful, Connie. This is heavy business here. Now, JR, what do you have going on tonight? He said, like, college Republicans, and then the tech library to write my final paper. And Stevie says, well, Stoney says he's sick and tired of hearing about it. And Connie's like, well, Stoney's a numbers guy, and he's jealous of JR. Was that true, JR? In a roundabout way, yeah. Stoney was supportive and everything. We had the same political views, but... Okay, so here's the scene here. 10 p.m., Texas Tech Library. Center for Visually Impaired, Brent walks in. And he's like, sorry I'm late. Because he had to date with Jesse and drop him off at the shuttle. And Gerald's like, I know what you're up to, Brent. And of course, Brent's like sitting on the couch, his arm in the back, like, so? And Gerald's like, I needed your help. And Brent's like, I know that. I had a date. And Gerald's like, Brent, you gotta understand. I'm trying to build you up. You promised me to help me with my paper. In exchange, you can become a commentator in West Texas or Texas. Hell, nationwide. For a swing man and the man in the order of the dove, a promise is a promise. Okay, so that's gotta be one of the highlights of the scenes here. And so I'm having to do some things because we have a little technical glitch here. There we go. Okay. Let's go with January 31st. Okay, so it's 7 a.m. Betsy is in her parents' master bedroom looking at a picture of them and quietly weeping. And Kristen walks in. Mom, I'm off to school. And Thomas, she's like, he walks in and he says, Christine, why don't you skip a day and go with me to pick up some cattle from Muleshoe. Muleshoe's not far from Lubbock. No, it's not. And Christine's like, can I, Mom? And Betsy's like, sure thing. She said, I'll make some meatloaf for dinner. God couldn't stand meatloaf. He was a crazy idiot. Okay, so it's 7:30 a.m. Kristen is having breakfast at Knapp Hall with Brent. When Mike Fields walks in, Brent looks at the clock, his clock, and speeds off. And Mike Fields says, I am here to ask you to stop seeing J.R. Hendrick. He's like, he's been through a lot, and his father worries about him. And Kristen's like, he's walked away. Besides, what's the big deal? I want a man so bad, Kristen said. So you have breakfast with Brent Clark? Thing is, Brent is a friend. I want JR. And Mike says, look, you said you'd take me. And Mike's looking like, ugh. And she said, look, you said you'd take me antiquing. Oh my God, Kristen was always antiquing. Drove me crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay, so it's 7:45 a.m. Outside of a McDonald's restaurant, Ann Clark, Britt's sister, is interviewing a woman about her thoughts of the state of the economy. The lady answers a few questions and then walks away. And then JR approaches. And she says, so here's the billionaire, J.R. Hendrick. And Ann's like, he's like pouring on a dog. Mr. Hendrick, how have your dining out habits changed over the past year? Well, I only do it every once in a while. I eat mostly at the Holy Spirit Club. And she's like, what is your belief on the state of the economy? And Gerald's like, well, I believe it's growing at a moderate pace. I think that the economy will rebound just fine in 1996. And she says, thank you so much, Mr. Hendrick. And Gerald's like, well, since you're Brent's sister, call me JR. How did you know? And Brent's like, well, Daddy says your family. Sees your family names and pictures are in the papers. I hear that Brent wants to be a columnist or commentator or something. And she said, yes, he is, Mr. Hendrick. And Kristen said, and Gerald's like, well, now, hold on, JR. I want to see you again. Probably his friends. Well, yeah, I didn't want to rebound. So 9:30 a.m. What day is that? The 31st. Brent just barges into Kristen's class, which is politics and propaganda. Okay? So after a few minutes, he disrupts class. We need to make a decision, Elizabeth. He's like, do we want to get back together or not? And Elizabeth Marie, she stood up in front of the class and she says, I see. Evelyn is getting impatient. And Frank said, I never said that. And Elizabeth Marie's like, go to hell, Frank. And sits down when class resumes. And guess who the class is taught by? Her academic advisor, Danny Miller. Frank, we need to give you the bell, good buddy. Don't walk in and barge in on your ex-fiance's class. That's poor manners. Okay, so it's 9:45 a.m. Christine and Thomas arrive at Muleshoe to load up the cattle. Some of the cattle had been flown in. Explain to me what theme song should be rolling in here. It's hard to know. I would have to say, but Bonanza. I remember my granddaddy watching that every time it came on with his gun in his side. Okay, so 9:45 a.m. Mike Fields drives Kristen off at the dorm. And he says, and she says, you have better manners than my father. And he says, what is his name? And she says, John Clifford Haig. He's okay. But he gets so damn militaristic. Yammer, Kristen's specialty. Yeah. 1:40 p.m. Uh, midway prep, Dave Morgenthau walks out of biology class when John Henry approaches him. And he says, "You're dating Christine Hendrick." And Dave says, "Yeah, what's it to you?" And John's like, "When you see her, give her this. I want her to call me when she gets out of English class." Okay, this is getting creepy. This is getting creepy. And I need you to determine whether you should give John Henry the bell. Give it to him. Yeah, because that's nuts. That's nuts. Okay, so it's 7 p.m. At the ranch, David is meeting with Christine in her room. And Christine's like, and my cousin Thomas, he's a better ranch foreman than Kyle. She says, "We went to Mulefield, and we came back after lunch. I spent the day on the pool." And David said, "You should have come to school. By the way, who's this John Henry? He gave me this and told to call an English class." And she's like, "It's just a guy I know." Kind of reminds me of that my medicine song. Same song. Yeah. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Okay, so here we are. February 1st. 7 a.m. Christine and Brent are having breakfast together. And Brent's like, "You're gorgeous. Gorgeous. JR would be a fool not to fall for you." And Christine's like, "I told you. I want you to win him back for me. We'll do it gradually." And Brent's like, "What? Papa Mike came to see you?" And she's like, "Brent, that's awful. Yeah, Mike Fields came to see me to say that JR is scared to fall in love with me. He took me antiquing, and that's all." And Brent says, "My girl's going to wonder why we're meeting like this." And Kristen's like, "It's a business friendship. And don't you dare forget that." Okay, so it's 10:40 a.m. Midway prep. Christine calls John Henry, and she's like, "Why the hell are you talking to my boyfriend?" And he says, "Unfinished business," John says. "Let's meet sometime. I will call you to set up the time and the place." And Christine says, "You're asking for a punch in the face, mister." Christine says, and she says, "You don't know who you're messing with. I'm not some stupid nothing. I'm a Hendrick." I bet Christine won't say a few choice words. Yeah. 11 a.m. At the Smith Hall Library study room, JR meets with CB, Coleman, and Connie. And CB says, Let's look at the polls for your economic data, CB said. McKay says that you need to send your first batch to Isaiah Friedman. And Jared's like, I see Zogby and Rasmussen, but what's the Zonderband poll? And Connie says, an unknown conservative poll. She says, very fertile pickings. And Jared's like, put a circle around that poll. I want to search that out before class tomorrow. And CB says, proud of you. Good choice. I got us some sodas from the club soda machine. Drinking the impacted pancreas. Yeah, me and Jared ain't doing that so much this week. We're both kind of under the weather. No doubt, huh? No doubt. Okay. 1:50 p.m. Jared walks out of his contention defense class when Darla approaches him. This just came in from Sneed. Packages from a John Henry. As I opened the package, I couldn't help but notice my surprise. The Assemblies of Christ in Canada issued a certificate of proposal. Apparently, John had asked Jennifer Bowers to marry him on August 18th, 1995. Sadly, I had to wait till for John to drop the other shoe. 3 p.m. Jared's back in his dorm room and he gets a call from Betsy. Jared, do you know this John Henry? And how do you know him? And Jared's like, Mama, he's a fiance of Jennifer Bowers. And Betsy's like, a rival for your affections. Jared, Kristen is upstairs with a migraine. Called in from school today. Deal with this. Mama, stop thinking it's my fault. I just got off the phone with an old advisor of hers in London. John has Jennifer right now. I have moved on. Okay. Interested? I give 4.5 orange juice bottles from McDonald's and a front story picture of JR and Jennifer Bowers. JR. This ain't, other than the Super Bowl, this ain't one of my better episodes. I give it 3.5 bottles of orange juice. I give it Kyle in the oil field instead of the ranch. And, of course, I give it a chance to eavesdrop on Kristen and Brent as they conspire. Good choice. Good choice. Hope you enjoy listening to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. Become a part of the adventure. This is the James Hendrick Empowerment Network saying until next time, get ready for the rest of the story. It's going to get a little bumpy from here.